Omicron has already rattled stock markets around the world. While we're seeing some rebound in those markets today, all three major markets took a hit on Friday. The Dow suffered its steepest sell-off in 13 months. So joining us now to discuss the risks of this new variant in the markets and the state of the recovery, Yahoo finance reporter Alexis Christoforous. Alexis, thanks for being with us again. So as I say, we're seeing some bounce back today in those markets. Where does that stand? And that Black Friday scare, do you think it was a sign of uncertainty and nervous? How closely should we pay attention to the markets as a gauge of where the economy's going as they're going up and down with this news?
You know, Terry, Friday was a pretty scary day for investors. I mean, we saw those big numbers, right? The Dow down 1,000 points. I think it's important, though, to put this in perspective, because while that sounds like a big number, it was just a 2% drop from the Dow's most recent high. So not that big of a deal, although that number was a bit scary. And we also have to remember that it was a holiday, so there were fewer market participants, which means there was very thin trading volume, which really meant we saw these wild, exaggerated swings in the market. And then comes Monday morning, and investors seem to be back in a buying mood. So a lot of the market strategists I've talked to today say they're not surprised we're seeing this nice bounce back. We've got the Dow up about 300 points and the NASDAQ the same. Technology helping to lead the advance today. But they're saying that what's helping the market today is that investors had the weekend to think about this Omicron variant. And of course, what President Biden said today only helped matters, saying this is a cause for concern, not panic, and that there doesn't seem to be the return to the March 2020 lockdowns where our economy was basically frozen. So the feeling here is that while the variant may be a challenge, another hurdle for the economic recovery, we're going to be able to handle it. And ironically, Terry, this is a good example of what's bad for Main Street could actually be good for Wall Street, because this variant, as long as it doesn't get too serious, means that the Federal Reserve now has reason to pause its rolling back of stimulus, meaning that the Fed may continue to pump money into this stock market, into the economy, in the hopes of continuing to buttress the recovery, and that it might even hold off on raising interest rates a little bit longer if this variant proves to be a big challenge here in the U.S.
Okay, so let's follow up on that, Alexis. You know, this mixed picture of what's going on in the economy, the ups, the downs, right? And since the vaccines rolled out, we've seen a pretty, solid recovery. Unemployment is down significantly. That's good. But concerns really have shifted, as you mentioned, to inflation, worker shortages. And also we're dealing with the supply chain issues still, even on this Cyber Monday, right? It's hard to get items at this point. So does the variant change the dynamics at all? This new variant, and do you think it will impact consumer spending? I guess we shouldn't talk about today because people are going to go for any deal that they can get on Black Friday, but just moving forward.
I think you're right. I think people are just going to be spending. If they see a deal and they see the item they want, they're going to get it now because they know there are those supply chain issues. Certainly, Omicron, the variant, could pose a challenge because it is global, remember, and we're an interconnected economy. So if there are shutdowns in other places in the world, that could definitely impact our supply chain issues here. But at least for now, here in the U.S., with no lockdowns, no shutdowns, with many consumers still flush with cash and demand still high, there's no reason to believe that consumers are going to start to pull back. President Biden meeting with the CEOs of some major retailers today, and a bit of news coming out of that is that the Walmart CEO said he is already seeing those supply chain disruptions starting to ease a little bit. Now, albeit Walmart is a giant retailer, so they have a little more muscle than smaller retailers to weather the supply chain storm. But the fact that Walmart's CEO is starting to see improvement at our country's ports is definitely a positive and can only really serve to help boost consumer confidence during the holiday shopping season.
Yeah, Alexis, we were talking right through the pandemic that it would really fundamentally change the U.S. economy, and yet here we see the unemployment going down, people coming back to work. We see the inflation perhaps, at least they have a plan maybe to get a hold of it. Supply chain issues maybe helping on that issue. Do you think we are seeing permanent changes after the pandemic, or is it too early to say still?
I think the way we work has changed probably forever because of the pandemic. And we're seeing how more and more people realize that they can do their jobs from remote locations. So that's going to impact where people decide to buy homes, to put down roots, to raise their kids. So I think the future of work has changed because of the pandemic. But the labor shortages that we continue to suffer, the high inflation, really continue to be the biggest threats to the economic recovery, more so than even the Omicron variant. True that we're still in the early stages of this variant, at least here in the U.S., and much more will be known in the coming weeks. But a lot of the strategists I'm talking to are pointing to inflation and labor shortages as our biggest hiccups. We're going to learn a lot more about the health of the labor market this Friday when we get that jobs report. But one encouraging thing is the number of Americans applying for unemployment benefits hit a new pandemic era low. So it could be a combination of things. People are getting back into the workforce, but also companies are afraid to let people go because it's so hard to find help right now. So I think Americans feel pretty secure in their jobs at the moment. And that's a positive when it comes to thinking about, how comfortable do they feel about spending during the holiday season.
Do you foresee any type of economic impact of countries reimposing these travel restrictions now?
You can bet that the airlines are taking a good hard look at that. I mean, we saw airline travel related stocks, the cruise lines as well, get decimated on Friday. They're actually bouncing back quite nicely today. So that is one industry closely tied to how the variant is going to impact the world and who shuts down and when they shut down. So I think travel is going to be the biggest question for most people. Travel is discretionary. So if they don't spend their money there, they may spend it elsewhere. And if, at least in the U.S., we don't see the lockdowns, we could still have people going to entertainment venues, going out to restaurants and spending freely.
I'm going to see Bob Dylan this week, so I'll get a chance to do that.
I'm jealous. That's awesome.
Well, so I'm inflicting it on my wife as well. But let me just ask you about this travel. So one of the issues for a lot of people, gas prices, right? So gas prices have, really put a crimp in a lot of people's weekly budgets. But now oil prices plunging 13% on Friday. Do you think that's a one-time thing, or you see that industry heading in a different direction? How do you think that'll impact consumers in the weeks ahead?
Well, we know that President Biden, in consort with a number of other countries, now going to put some of that strategic petroleum onto the market, 50 million more barrels of oil. So that's definitely helping. And we saw that news filter through the oil markets. That's not really going to hit for another 7 to 10 days. So we could see gas prices take another nice leg down. We are expecting oil prices to stabilize in the coming months. Heating your home will probably be more expensive. But in terms of oil being part of the inflation picture, it is still there. It is not an overnight fix. This drop we're seeing now, this big drop of 13%, probably not going to last, although we should see prices stabilize in the coming months. And we know, fuel is a big part of household budgets in America. So wherever we can save at the pump is definitely good news for consumers.
Absolutely. Alexis Christoforous, thanks very much for your insight and help on all those issues. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.